Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, and want to thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday evening. We just go for it, go for every day. Might as well just go for every day. When you look on the different platforms, YouTube, Facebook, people are just talking. But hey, why not? Just go for it, and at the same time, just bring up some really powerful and salient issues here. And tonight is the late one Stills, on the Silburn Show. And I want to thank those on YouTube, those on Instagram, those on Facebook, and those on TikTok. If you want to be a part of the conversation, just let me hear your views and your comments. But we'll just go very straight with Matondo Mukulu, former public defender, and we just talk about the Jamaican economy and the key salient topics that we're going to talk about, ladies and gentlemen. As you can see, crime, Haitian refugees, the economy, and constitutional reforms. You wonder the question, you ask the question. You're overseas and you're very much involved in talking about what's happening in Jamaica. But I believe it is very important, very salient, you know. And as you can see, what is happening now in the world, especially regarding the Middle East, we see big demonstration in the UK. You know what contributed to that big demonstration? The Palestinian diaspora. Yeah, the Jewish diaspora. They're all over the world. And therefore, just like that, the Jamaican diaspora is very strong. And that's what we're going to talk about. So, ladies and gentlemen, please share this video, share it, and let's have that conversation as we embark on the late one spills. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. And tonight, as I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about Jamaica, the economy, crime, Haitian refugees, the economy, and constitutional reforms. And I'm going to bring on my guest, who is Matondo Mukulu. Matondo Mukulu was a former public defender. It's a barrister in the UK. And we have different conversations. And, and today, of course, we're going to have these following conversations. Someone said on TikTok, "What are you fighting for?" We don't fight. As Michael Jackson say, we're lovers, not fighters. We're not going to fight, man. Matondo, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Good evening to you. Good afternoon to those in Jamaica.
Yes.
And of course, those in North America. And if you
Mm.
happen to be in Australia, I think it's almost morning now. So I'd say good morning.
Well, I was just speaking to Professor Rosalie Hamilton. I thought she was in Jamaica. She said to me she's in Sierra Leone.
You're on. So,
In
well,
Sierra Leone. So the Jamaica, as I said as a while ago, sometimes they say like in America, the American presidents always come up when they do the State of Union. The State of the Union is strong. So likewise, I say the diaspora is strong at the same time. Matunda, we have had discussions many times in the park, walking, and
mhm.
having these conversations. And we just said, let's just have this chat, this Sunday evening chat, in about an hour, talking about the Jamaica economy and how we see things. Because we sort of look at things a bit deeper. Um, what's your take on how things are, generally speaking?
Well, I think it'll be wrong for anyone to say that the macro economy is not functioning in the way, the sort of favorable manner. It
Mm,
is. There's a degree of stability which is commendable.
mm,
Um, and the other day I see where the Minister of Foreign Affairs is really Minister of Finance, sorry,
yeah,
has effectively gotten some overseas countries, some international persons to effectively take out loans or borrow in Jamaican dollars,
yeah,
which and the credit rate agencies have given us a positive
sure,
rating.
yes,
Thumbs up. I must admit, it's a bit of a, it's good. Unlike when we had what's his name, Audley Shaw as finance minister, the
yes,
tail end of it. was not good. But I don't think it's bad news. It's good news. The macro economy.
Yeah.
There's good news. There's stability, and I think those who operate from Hero Circle, where the finance ministry is, it will tell you that, well, we now have stability and we want to now grow the economy,
Mm.
you know. But whenever I hear the good news of the economy, the macro economy, I always go back into political history. Obviously, not the same set of circumstances, but if you remember post independence, when we had the government had a great degree of economic growth
Yes.
at the time. But what we didn't have, I mean, at the time we had the bauxite, tourism, were the new kids on the block, if you like. But in terms of changing the everyday experience or experiences of people on a day-to-day level, it wasn't something that people felt. And so and that is why you hear the government presently have not been hesitant to say, well, we have now stabilized the economy.
Mm.
Now it's about getting growth, because they too realize that it's not enough just to have macroeconomic stability, because what that will mean is that you're just managing the economy. Case in point, if you look at the unemployment figures now, and
Yeah.
it is the same formula that has always been used over the years, be it PNP or JLP government.
Mm.
Same formula that has been used, and it masks a high degree of underemployment, which I'm defining as a significant mismatch. It's a very abbreviated definition. A significant mismatch
Yeah.
between the job that you're doing and the skills that you have. So if you're significantly unemployed, you that is not good for any economy,
Mm.
because what it means is that resources are not, the economy is such that it has not been able to allocate human capital to where it's best suited, and to
Yes.
where it will be most effectively utilized so as to increase productivity. I mean, make no bones about it. One of our most critical problems in our economy has always been the issue of underemployment and productivity. Now, if there's a mismatch between in terms of the allocation of human capital,
Mm.
what that will effectively mean is that productivity will be impacted
Yeah.
significantly, and we have always had that problem. We've always had that problem. So whilst I look at the when I look at the the, the unemployment figures, and I'm not going to say it is not good. It is
Mm.
good that unemployment is trending downwards. But if you take a more critical look at it, and you evaluate it, you realize that there's a significant amount of underemployment taking place. The the agricultural sector, I can see where I'm going to say in the St. Elizabeth area, where there's been moves have been taken to expand water capacity and availability for farmers in that region. And you have to commend
Mm.
the government for doing that, because that is necessary. It not even necessary. That is essential for
Mm.
an area like that, because as of farmers will not cannot maximize their yield, especially those farmers who are in crop cultivation. They will not and cannot maximize their yields without availability of of water. But
Mm.
I'm concerned. I'm really concerned about, and I think the government ought to be concerned about, one, the underemployment, and two, it has to be concerned about the what is happening in terms of the everyday economic experience of the Jamaican worker,
Mm.
because um, if the economy is not growing.
Mm.
The economy is not growing, even though you have the macroeconomic stability. And it will take some time, I accept, for some of the inputs to start bearing fruit.
Yeah.
Agriculture needs to start churning out more than it is. When I look at the data from the PIOJ, and I looked at it about 2 weeks ago, agriculture has been experiencing what I call a sort of autonomous. The type of growth that agriculture has been experiencing, it's not because of any deliberate action on the part of government, and this has been so for when the PNP was in power, and it's the same thing is happening. What that tells
Mm.
me is that potential, there's a great degree of unutilized and unexplored potential in agriculture because it is growing, not because government is doing a great deal. You understand? Not
I
because
mean,
government.
it's an evolutionary process which is just happening
Yeah, it's
by
autonomous.
default. Mm.
Yeah, by default. This is not me saying government hasn't done anything for agriculture. I'm not saying that. What I'm
Yeah.
saying is that if government were to start doing 20 or 30% more, we will see a significant
Mm.
return on that sort of investment in the area of agriculture. I mean,
Yeah.
construction, obviously, especially in the St. Catherine, Kingston metropolitan area, has been booming. You understand? People are getting involved in construction, but you want to take that sort of construction, not just you want to experience that, not just in and around the metropolitan areas, and the
Mm.
reason, but also in the rural areas. And the reason for that is as you as we're opening up different legs of the highway 2000. The only way you can really take advantage and people feel the benefits of that is if you have a sort of rural development program working in tandem with
Mm.
the expansion of your road networks. There's no point in having increased and improved communication, by which I mean uh, road network, if it's not encouraging
Yeah.
economic shift in the rural areas, especially with the larger parishes, Clarendon and St. Elizabeth. Those parishes will have to get in and benefit from all of that.
Mm. I see a couple of questions here. Of course, try to make it interactive as much as possible. Um, and you said something a while ago that it is not felt just the felt need of the individual person. Someone said if people are paid their worth while working, there'd be no problem. And another person said, how could this be a result of lack of young farmers as well? Because what you're saying is that there's no doubt what you're saying, there's no doubt that there's progress. There's no doubt about it that there's progress in the economy area. But at the same time, it needs to be filtered down
Yeah,
more.
I mean, you know, I'm not an economist, but the
Yeah.
little I know about economics would tell you that you can have good macroeconomic figures. Your GDP can be good. Your balance of payments can be excellent. You can
Mm.
say clearly that's is what's happening. There's a degree of stability in terms of the foreign exchange versus the Jamaican dollar. We have those things,
Mm.
but you will listen to the persons who have the struggle to pay for medication. Yeah,
Yeah.
you listen to persons who have the struggle. You still have people, youngsters who are struggling to
Mm.
find lunch money. Their parents are struggling to find lunch for
Yeah.
them to go to school. Those are the sort of everyday lived experience
Yes.
that determines whether or not this macroeconomic stability is is beyond what we experienced in the 1960s. What makes it any different is what people are asking.
Mm.
Because at the end of the day, the cost of living is important.
Yes.
Now, what I hear those who care for the government say is this, and there's a value to it. we have managed to stabilize inflation, but at what level? At what level?
Mm.
If you're stabilizing inflation at a high level, then it is good, but equally the ambition must be to lower inflation.
Yeah.
Because if inflation is not lowered, even if it's stabilized, you're stabilizing it at a high level. And what that will mean for on a practical level is that when you sit around the dinner table in a typical family of three,
Yes.
that it means that some people won't be able to buy more than half a loaf, hardware bread for a week, and you
Mm.
don't want that. Shouldn't be happening in 2023 Jamaica.
Mm. We're gonna have to move on to some other point, but just one last one there. There's a hoo ha in the people talking about the fact that GCT was removed from horses, and some writer is saying that, or some different person are saying that it is more for a Richmond game. It's more susceptible or supporting the rich man. And then on the other side, there's another view, another point, and I was listening to this guy breaking it down that removing the GCT also stimulate that particular industry, whereby it gives and it supports a lot of other jobs at the same time. Do you think that is a communicating how things are communicated down?
Well, I mean, there is a high degree of we call economic illiteracy
Yes.
in our country, and I'm not saying that it to be disrespectful.
Mm.
I'm just saying I'm stating an objective fact because not many persons understand. I'm sure more do now
Mm.
than probably 20 years ago, but not many persons still. A lot of persons still do not understand. So the difference between indirect and direct taxation.
Yeah.
I mean, the consumption tax. I've always supported indirect taxation
Yes.
over direct taxation because you tend to catch more persons because people have to consume things.
Yes.
Now, what I don't have and what I've not seen in this horse racing sector discussion on the removal of the consumption tax is this point. One, how large a sector it is in terms of market reach numbers, and also in terms of what it brings to the consolidated fund in terms of tax revenue. So you're removing this GCT. How much are we foregoing, and for what we're foregoing? Is there? It's too simplistic to say, well, it's a tax break for the wealthy,
Yes.
but I think it's a better discussion if we get the figures. We get the figures and look at and examine them to see if this is a sector
Yeah.
that has tentacles that reach um, not just the agricultural sector in terms of hay. I'm just trying to think off the cuff. It's a sector that you have jockeys, ordinary guys. You have the farmers,
Trainers. We got the trainers as well.
trainers. You have the those who cultivate grass for hay.
Yes.
Yeah.
And you got
So
some persons who actually wake up early in the morning and actually see how the horses run. I'm actually speaking to a trainer. I was trying to get hold of him, and I was trying to get hold of Dr. Andre Horton. As a matter of fact, I'm going to try to aim for them, and also for even Dr. Clark as well, to sort of break it down, because I believe a lot of it is lack of, as you say, without so facetious education, financial education.
yeah,
You know.
man, that is what is missing because I don't know because I've listened to those from the sector, the horse racing sector. Quite naturally, they're going to defend something like that. Nobody likes to pay taxes, but they what they need to tell us is not well how well this sector can have this great multiplier effect, or it does have this great multiplier
Mm,
effect. Well, what are your numbers? I need to see the numbers.
mm,
How much money is the government foregoing when it removes that GCT from that sector? And how does the government see itself collecting that Is it quite naturally is a tax on profits?
Mm.
A tax on profits. We don't know what the profit margin has been for the last 10 years because certainly you can't make that decision based on what has happened for the last 2 3 years
Yeah.
because we had COVID. So
Yeah.
we need to see that data. But I can
Yes.
see, on the other hand, why people might be tempted to argue that this is a tax break for
Mm.
a select few in the society.
Yes.
And those who are in that sector should not be surprised by that, because ultimately this is not a sport in which a great cross section of the society participate at the value added end. Yes, you
Yes.
do have a lot of persons betting in the betting shops or online or however it's done these days, but at the value added end, let us be truthful and
Yes.
accept that it is not the sport that will have a great number of ordinary Jamaicans participating and benefiting from. It's
Yeah.
the truth. I mean, let's not beat around the bush on that. But I don't level my criticism at it because of the fact that somehow it attracts persons with higher income. Some
Yes.
motor racing does the same, and I would not be ultimately overly critical of it. Bring the data to the table and forget the
Yes.
emotions. That's all I'm
Okay.
saying.
Bring the data to the table and forget the emotion. Okay. I want to move on into another topic there, and it was um there have been a few wranglings there regarding Haitian refugees who have been coming to Jamaica, and they've been sending them back. What's your take on that from the legal perspective as well?
From a purely legal perspective, I think the Jamaican government, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs, and the Ministry of National Security ought to be ashamed of themselves.
Mm.
And I say that because we are signatories to the 1951 Convention on the Status of Refugee, as amended by the 1967 Protocol.
Mm.
As signatories, there's certain things that we must do when and if we're presented with what we have been presented with.
Mm.
Um, and what's that we need to do? We need to assess the persons who land and seek asylum. We need to assess them. You don't deny them the opportunity to claim asylum,
Yeah.
because let us remember something, and this is where the misleading information, again, information is important. You have to demonstrate that you're fleeing persecution, and that persecution could either be from the state
Yes.
or from a non-state actor or a set of non-state actors,
Yeah.
and the state itself cannot provide you with the protection that is necessary. Hence, you decide to come out of your
Mm.
country. I have a problem with a government who says in one breath, we are a member of the United Nations. We have signed we've ratified the convention, the Refugee Convention. But guess what? We will not take steps to ensure that the persons who rock up to our shores are accorded the rights that we as a state, forget about a government, as a
Mm.
state,
Should be
have
affording.
said
Mm.
that we will accord you. And I think that this government is it's just wrong. It is wrong, and
Mm.
it's misleading to tell people that, well, once these people come rock up to our shores, somehow we have no other way of dealing with them, and if we allow them to come in, there's no way to get them out. All of that is misleading,
Mm.
because what it does, it gives the impression that everyone who claims asylum will succeed, and that's just a nonsense, because the individual or the individuals will have to demonstrate via an objective legal standard that they
Yeah.
fit within the definition of the person who's a refugee. You have to demonstrate what persecution you're fleeing, and that takes a lot of persuading and a lot of information. And we have the capacity to take these persons and assess them but somehow the Minister of Foreign Affairs thinks that we're a bunch of numbskulls and we won't be able to
Mm.
see when a government minister is frankly being disingenuous. And the government has been disingenuous on this one.
Yes. Is it okay? So what you're saying is that, and what you understand is that they have not gone through the process.
They haven't. They haven't.
You just lift
What
them
what
up
they've done?
and say
They've,
bye bye,
they've
go
met.
back.
Yeah, just met these people and turned them back.
Wow.
And that's not what is anticipated under the convention. You ought to allow the person to make the claim, or submit the claim. Sorry,
Yeah.
assess the claim, and then make a decision.
Yes.
And make a decision. But we haven't gotten to the point of assessment of the claim or the claims. They've turned them back before they can submit their claim for their asylum claim, and that is unlawful and it is wrong. It's wrong. And I know the
Well,
minister knows that it's wrong. I know the prime minister knows that it's wrong.
and the ministry you're talking about is a combination of the um, foreign affairs and security,
Yeah,
or
national
foreign.
security. On a practical level, it's the Ministry of
Yeah.
National Security that will have done the assessment because PICA, the Passport and Immigration uh, and Citizenship
Service. Yeah.
Authority, they're the ones who would make that determination. It's just wrong.
But wouldn't the foreign affairs also play a part in that whole process, leaning towards the convention and being a part of the UN and the face of it,
Well, I mean, the Foreign
working
Affairs,
in
the Ministry of
concert, working in concert rather?
yeah, yes, but in terms of the lead ministry, clearly would be the Ministry of National Security.
Mm.
But,
Mm.
the you see, it is what happens with international law is one of the things that you people talk a lot about
Yes.
the where are the demerits, where are the punishments, where are the sanctions to be
Yeah.
applied if there's a breach of international law,
Yes.
which is what we've done. We've breached international law, but somehow you're not going to have anyone getting up crying about this, either in the United Nations or I suspect in Jamaica. Only a few committed voices have cried out for that. I mean, strategically, unless people are going to meet these boats and
Yeah.
literally take people off and submit the claims and
Yeah.
have them wait on the government to make a determination. The only other way around it is for an interested party to judicially review the government for its failure to adhere to the convention.
There's a parallel action, a parallel thing which is happening in the UK, whereby when is it? There's a court hearing. The appeal is coming out soon for the Rwanda, where the Home
On Wednesday.
Secretary
Yeah,
is
on
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Do you
The
think
Supreme
that
Court will make.
you think many countries are also watching this particular ruling at the same time? In a sense.
Yeah, I suspect yes, but I mean,
Mm.
that particular arrangement is slightly different because what they're proposing to do is literally to move a couple of persons to a third country, i.e.,
So
Rwanda.
they're accepting the refugees in first instance. Then
But they're saying we're going to process you
we're
somewhere
going to
else.
process it somewhere in Rwanda. Yeah.
Yeah,
The-
I think Australia done it and were successful in it.
mm.
I am not particularly convinced that the Supreme Court will rule against the government. I'm silently not optimistic that it will turn. I think it will turn out in
Yeah.
the court will rule in the government's favor.
Yeah. Well, while we're at it, there just one particular point in this particular area regarding the whole United Nations. The Minister of Foreign Affairs, Minister um, Kamina Johnson, Senator, recently they missed a very key vote um, regarding having some sort of resolution in the Middle East, and of course, there's lots of different reasons or rationale behind it. You think that she's been well, I shouldn't say genuine because you don't know the genuineness of someone unless you're actually in there. But do you think that was a good move by Jamaica, just like that, to miss it, even though the rationale and the reasons are what she gave to say there's more to it than just missing it?
Did she say there's more to it than just missing it?
Well, what she said in her justification was that even though they're having these level of consultations, she said there was a consultation, and Lisa Anna was saying, "Why the consultation?" Or she said, "Well, they need for this consultation," but she said, actually, the CARICOM bit which she's head of, or Jamaica is head of, they actually um, communicated that particular line, but they just missed the vote. And what you said was that you need to actually read more. If the shadow minister of foreign affairs had read a bit more, she would understand. So she was having a go at Lisa Hanna, who is seeking for her to resign based on that fundamental um, missing the key
You
vote.
see, I am starting from the position of someone who used to take Miss Camina Johnson Smith at her word. However, at the start of COVID, when she blatantly lied, and I'm not afraid to say that she lied
Yeah,
about the boat issue and how is it that Jamaicans were not let into the country, even though there were rules that could allow them to be quarantined. Once I lost faith in her ability to speak truth on
yeah,
important matters on that occasion because she blatantly lied. And
mm,
at that time, I listened over and over to what she was saying to try to make sense of it as a matter of law. And all that she was saying was just didn't make any sense. And she lied. Therefore, I am quite skeptical of her telling me that, well, someone needs to go and read the procedure and the protocol.
yeah,
I think we all know that the Jamaican government presently has a policy of siding with the United States.
yes,
Let's not forget that one of the first countries that the present Prime Minister of Jamaica visited on assuming office was Israel.
yes,
Yeah. So if he's projecting a foreign policy of being close to Israel, I'm sure he has his reasons for doing so. But for crying out loud, why not say so rather than doing so, saying it through gritted teeth and trying to ride the horse in both directions?
yeah,
I have no axe to grind when it comes to this particular issue,
yeah,
but I have my own personal views on it, which is that there ought to be a ceasefire to allow children, the lives of children, to be saved.
mm,
You really don't, you just don't get to avenge, because that's what it is, the death of others by killing other children, by killing children. It just
mm,
doesn't happen. And this sort of political Zionism, because that's what it is, political Zionism, nothing to do with the Jewish people. It's a state,
mm,
it's Israel. The government of Jamaica failed to vote on the issue, and what Camilla Johnson Smith and the Prime Minister should come out and say is that we support this state, the state of Israel, in what it's doing, rather
mm.
than hypocritically saying somehow that we missed the vote because there were consultations. Why is it no other CARICOM country missed the vote? I'm not understanding that.
And going around in circles. So what you're saying and what you're picking up is that the government is seem to be disingenuous in being straight with the people of Jamaica, because a lot of people also have been saying is that, listen, Mr. Holness or Mr. Prime Minister, speak for yourself. Speak for we. A lot of people keep saying that, and then you start to wonder now when they reach these sort of crucial point where they have to make these decisions. Do you got time to cascade it down to your MPs, or all MPs are just going to fall in line? That is, of course, the government MPs, or they're going to try to speak with the people, or is there time? Do you think there's time for them to have conversation with the people? What are you actually saying, people? Or they just follow through with a key policy which is within the four square corners of their cabinet?
Well, on an issue like that, I
Mm,
doubt that any MP canvass their constituents to see what their thoughts are on the issue. The Jamaican government has a foreign policy that is aligned in whatever shape or form to whatever it is. It seems that the government in Washington does. fine. And I'm not an absolutist when it comes to those things because
Mm.
ultimately it is the superpower of the day. However, if you have a friend and you cannot tell your friend in clear terms that
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is not correct
Mm.
and there's a different way to do it, then what sort of friendship that is? That's a this government's um, diplomatic message has always been that of a lapdog. Whatever Trump said it did on the question of Venezuela, and see now that is coming back to
To bite.
embarrass us, not bite,
Yes.
embarrass us.
Yes. Yes.
America has just wrapped up an agreement with Venezuela. America is presently taking 100,000 barrels per day of oil from Venezuela. We ripped up the Petrocarib deal because America asked us to. We voted against Venezuela at the OAS meeting because America asked us to, not recognizing that really America acts in its own interest at
Mm.
all times.
Yeah.
At all
There's
times.
yeah. There is a saying, and it's not even a saying, but it's a fact. Jamaica is one country which is a light that shines bright and actually is very firm when it comes on to resolution and being very resolute and to resolve. Michael Manley those days dealt with the whole issue with South Africa. Jamaica always have a strong voice, but somehow it is seen like the voice of Jamaica has been watered down and wishy-washy.
Yeah,
You know?
because everything, I think this prime minister, God bless him, he tries to be all things to all persons.
Yeah.
I can recall what he said about the Chinese. Well, if they're coming to invest, we're going to accept them. He was saying to America, I'm signing up to the Belt and Road Initiative, and if you don't want me to, I'll tell you what you do: bring some money and bring some investments for
Yes.
us to say no to them. And that's a perfectly legitimate line to take. My
Mm.
problem is this: that you must have friends that you should be able to tell your friend when he or she is going wrong. I mean, how can it ever be conceptually correct,
Mm.
or and how do you justify in your brain the killing of children? You can
Mm.
say what Hamas did on the 7th of October it was wrong, whilst at the same time saying what the state of Israel is doing in bombing and killing innocent men, women, and children have nothing to do with Hamas.
Mm.
You can say both are wrong, and our government seem incapable
Of
of
saying that.
doing of saying that. You can say
Yeah.
both are wrong.
Yeah.
You can say that,
I
and you
mean,
can
I
say
mean,
we want a
yeah.
ceasefire.
I mean, even in the recent, many people have been scared of wanting to speak on different sides regarding the Middle East and especially even what's happening in the UK. And even the march in Armistice Day yesterday, whereby there's been they shouldn't march, they should march. The Prime Minister bringing in the Chief of Police, the Home Secretary writing that letter there. My view personally is saying that listen, they need to march because that's the whole purpose of why those guys lay down their lives in the war. So there could be freedom of expression going against Nazi Germany. Nothing is wrong with them marching. And the police said, yes, let them march. And of course, we have seen the results now that only look a few skirmish happened, you know? And I believe that people need to be able to speak and to say, listen, there need to be some sort of resolution in the Middle East. Can't just have this killing going on, no matter what side you're on. And I think even Jews are even saying that. But
Of
that's
course,
what you
because
say.
yeah, because this is not about the Jewish people. This is about the state of Israel, which are two different things. This
Yes.
is political Zionism. You see, people talk about political Islam, but very few people talk about political Zionism.
Mm.
Political Zionism is as wrong as political Islam. You
Yes.
understand? I mean, I'm reading a book right now called "The Rise of the Israeli Right."
Yes.
Yeah, and when you read it, you realize that
Can you put
a
the book
lot
up
of
again by Colin Shindle? Can you put the book up again with let me see the front of it? So,
sorry,
yeah, yeah.
the rise
Colin
of the
Shindle. Yes.
Schindler, yeah, it's produced by the Cambridge University Press. The rise
Okay.
of the
Good.
Israeli right, and it
Mm.
traces the sort of evolution and development of political Zionism up to Benjamin Netanyahu, present day.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's a conversation for a different
Yeah.
time. I'm not denying the state of Israel. It's
Mm.
I might have my views on how it was started and so forth, but I'm not a player down that side in that side
Yeah.
of the world. What I'm saying is, when I see children being slaughtered, on be they Israeli children or Palestinian children, it is wrong.
Yes.
A Palestinian life is not worth more than an Israeli children's life.
Yes.
It's just
Yes.
wrong, and the
See.
entire international community in the West seem incapable of recognizing it. And I tell you, this is going to come back to bite them. Jamaica had an opportunity to remind the world that it makes no compromises when it comes on to the lives of children, and Kamina Johnson Smith and the Prime Minister failed miserably on that.
So therefore, she should go, as Lisa Hanna says.
Well, I wouldn't be shedding tears for her. She's a liar.
Okay, let's move on now. And the late one spills with Matondo Mukulu as we're looking at different discussions, looking at different issues. And we're going to touch on crime. You know, I must say, Matunda, many years ago, I was in the UK here, and I think I got a silver pen. I think I got a silver pen for it, and it was the letter of the day as well. And my article was the bankruptcy of the wills fuel crime. That's what it was. Bankruptcy of the will fuel crime, where I believe that somehow there was not a mighty or fundamental resolve between both sides of the house to really get to work on resolving crime. And I believe of recent days, I believe the prime minister was saying that they need to do some study about crime to find out what is this. And of course, the state of emergency is back again. I believe the opposition is not in support of it, and the prime minister they're using that as a way to catch up. What's your take on this? I mean, this has been going on for a long time, Matunda. Can we deal with this crime thing once and for all?
Prime Minister should once and for all
Mm.
sack his security minister. The man is
Yeah.
an abject failure.
Mm.
He's an abject failure. There are
Mm.
no new ideas. You know, my friends who support the government point out to me, rightfully so, that
Yeah.
there's been a great degree of expenditure in terms of resources. Forensic lab is being improved upon,
Mm.
cars, personnel been recruited. But I asked the question, to what end? Those things are not end within themselves. There's an objective. There's a reason why you increase spending on security
Mm.
forces, on the security forces. This this security minister is an abject failure, and in any other democracy, he would have been the former minister of national security, because
I
there
know the former. Yes. Uh-huh.
he would have been the former. There are no new ideas emanating from, is it Oxford Road? I think near Oxford Road they're based. There are no new ideas
Mm.
emanating from the ministry, and that to me is worrying. I am concerned.
Mm.
Where are the new ideas that are coming? None. And they will say to me, well, we have now passed legislation to create mandatory minimum sentences. I agree with those things. Those things are good. I've always been in favor of mandatory minimums, okay? Because I've read the law on it. It's been tried in Canada, and it's been upheld by the Canadian Supreme Court, and I've read the judgment. I support it. I was never a card carrying mandatory minimum person, but I've read the judgment and I've seen the rationale behind it. They can serve a purpose. But what are you doing in the short term to arrest the worst levels of murders? Because that's
Mm.
our problem, murders in Jamaica. What are you doing?
Mm.
A poll that was done some 4 or so months ago told us that the number one thing on the minds of the populace in Jamaica is crime, not the economy. Crime. Crime is a thing. Where are the ideas? Let me throw out one or two. If I were sitting in that chair where
Yes.
Dr. Chang is sitting, my
You'll be
first
sleeping.
prayer.
You'll
Hmm?
be sleeping. You'll be sleeping. Sorry, I've just been facetious. Carry
Well,
on. You
if
might
it
get
is that he
the spirit of
manages to
sleep.
be,
The spirit of sleep might hit you. Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
where is it? Where
Yeah.
are the cameras? Forget about this Jamaica eye thing. Yeah?
Yes.
Hear me out
Mm,
for a second. I would bring a legislation to Parliament,
mm,
make it mandatory for every property owner, residential or commercial, to install cameras at the property or the premises.
yes.
Yes? The
Mm,
specification will be set out in a schedule. We can talk about that. But firstly, as a property owner, you have to install a certain type of camera and a certain number of cameras.
yes.
That will be fed into a cloud system that is paid for by the government.
Mm,
If the property owner fails to do that which the law requires, you put a civil penalty on the person, and the extent of that civil penalty will be determined by the value of the property. You
yeah.
want it to be no less than 80% of the value of the property so that the government can take your property if you fail to do that.
Mm,
Okay? It's not hard to do. It's been done in other instances, and it will be constitution proof. You understand?
mm,
What are the practical benefits of that? Well, one, it reduces the dependence that the court system has on reliance on witnesses.
yeah.
Yeah. Two, it means that the government it frees the government up to spend on cameras on the road. Yep. The approach to crime must be prevention and detection, and that's what the cameras do. They either prevent or they detect. They either act as a deterrent
Yeah.
or they prevent. For the life of me, I don't know why the Minister of National Security has not thought about this. No, but you don't have to be a genius to work out what's going on
Mm,
here. Criminals will continue to do what they do if they are not detected. It's a business. Make it
mm,
more difficult, make it more challenging. Because I tell you what, when people get involved in contract killings and those things, the higher the risk, the higher the price. You got to kill the market. You have to make the price the market out of existence.
mm.
Price the market out of existence, or increase your capacity to detect these things. We're sitting down talking about Jamaica Eye. That is not going to help us. Every
Because
home in our country,
yeah,
hmm?
yeah. No, it's just that someone
Every home.
is actually saying talking about Jamaica High. Chinese business owners have connected their CCTV systems to a Jamaica Eye, or am I wrong? Yeah. Mm,
That is not enough. That is
mm,
not enough. That is just one is voluntary.
yes.
There's no mandatory duty to have a camera. So
Mm,
you buy a house, you don't need to have a camera. You, I mean, you live in the UK. You remember
yes.
when that police guy killed that lady,
Yes.
a young lady, and it was the how he got caught? A camera from a bus, a passing bus
Yeah.
that picked him up,
Exactly. Yeah.
that picked him up. So I'm sorry, but I'm sold. I'm 100 and whatever million times sold on the benefits of having cameras. I'm sold on it because
Mm,
I've seen where it has acted as a deterrent. I've seen where it has helped other countries in solving serious crime.
yeah.
Somehow our ministers think that, well, we have and you hear them talk about it a lot. Well, we have the Jamaica Eye. If you're presenting that to me as your CCTV
Formula.
policy, then yeah, then shame on you. We should be opening up
Yeah.
a we should be opening up a division with
Mm.
at the school, the college, police college, where people are training to use this thing. But instead, we're talking about the Jamaica Eye. It's just a little not that. That's the level of our
Yeah.
ambition here.
Yeah. Can I just bring in this one here, and I just mention a couple of comments which has been here, just to um keep them involved. Do you mean kicking the can down the road? And that's what Herbert said. The police need proper police vehicles. Um, don't you think at the same time that there need to be, okay, Vision 2030 is something which is in place, a bipartisan initiative, which is for Jamaica to become a fully developed country in 2030. Okay, shouldn't the crime plan for Jamaica be something whereby the two key players and also some of the independents which are rising up should sit down together, just like how they had these Vale Royal meetings? I think I saw it started recently and it stopped again. They should be working together in a collective sense, especially even with the SOE, to really show the gunmen or the criminals that, hey, we're working together to get them out of the circulation. But it's not happening.
Well, because I think I heard the leader of the opposition saying the last time a meeting was, I can't remember what they called this oversight committee. It was
Yeah,
2019. 2019. So I
yeah.
take a dim view of a prime minister who says, well, it's a PNP who's preventing us from fighting these criminals. Well, why haven't
Mm,
you turned up to the? Why haven't you convened the oversight committee since 2019? We're in 2023.
yeah.
Yes, I agree with you, Sid, that any Vision 2030, to the extent that that's still relevant,
Mm.
must incorporate a sort of strategic plan that goes beyond state of emergencies. It must go beyond the state of emergencies because ultimately, and you and I know, and for those in the diaspora and for people in Jamaica,
Because I always say this to myself all the while. If you have a Vision 2030, which is a plan for Jamaica, then that the whole purpose of a manifesto doesn't make sense, because you got a plan for Jamaica and everybody should be working aligned with that. And therefore, if there is a crime plan which everybody has signed up to say this is the way how we're going to rid Jamaica of crime. I mean, we're going to touch on constitution quickly. And one of the things that when you talk about constitution reform, the most response you get from persons most time is this: well, there's more important issues: crime, and therefore there seem not to be a fundamental agreement. And I believe that is also very crucial. Someone just says, why don't we, I'm just reading what TikTok said, why don't
hmm
we deploy the use of dogs that are specifically trained to detect money, guns, ammunition? Dogs are a cheap option and dogs can be trained to detect anything. So there are different facets. I just mentioned that. Yeah, don't you think that there must be something that they are resolved? A resolved. The American presidents always say, "We, the American people, resolve." And you know that when they say resolve, that's it. That's the end game. We're going forward. But is it that hands are tied in Jamaican politicians, whereby them no one touched certain things because it's all dirty?
well, I mean, I can't answer that question, but
Yeah, yeah,
I just think that what you have, going back to that article that letter you wrote, is a lack of political will on the government side. I mean,
yeah.
government is paid to govern the country. That's what it's elected to do, to govern and run the country. And
Mm,
I don't understand why it is that a comprehensive CCTV bill hasn't been brought to Parliament. I mean, government needs to put cameras on the road.
mm,
Citizens need to be given that duty to put cameras at home. And then
mm.
now we come to the issue of, well, you remember we when we had at post 9/11 and
Yeah.
post 7/7,
Mm,
we had those control orders that were used by the government in the UK and
Mm.
also in New Zealand. Control orders. The Supreme Court in the UK struck down aspects of it, but preserved aspects of it. These are
Yes.
the sort of things that we need to be engaged in instead of faffing around with the Bail Act. Get some control orders in place. You know who the violence producers are. You have reasonable cause to pick them up. Get control orders so you can actually keep them inside and
Yeah.
squeeze their. Listen, the state must be tough on criminals.
Yes.
The state must be tough on criminals and be smarter than criminals. Well, what we have in this government is a bunch of. I'm very passionate about it. It's a bunch of weaklings. They're
Mm.
weak and they're lacking in vision when it comes to
Mm.
crime. Weak and lacking in vision. Where are the control orders?
Yeah.
Where's the CCTV bill that they should have brought to Parliament 2 3 years ago? All they
Yeah.
need they want to do is to come up and express. And I adopt what I heard Lisa Hannon said in Parliament I think it was last week.
Yes.
She's tired, and I'm tired of hearing platitudes about an expression of shock and horror and
Yeah.
expressing sympathy or even empathy in some instances. The people of Jamaica have elected you. Govern.
To create
The
action.
most important issue that you're facing is crime. Resolve it. Reduce not just crime, but murders.
Mm.
Reduce it. People are murdering people too easily.
Yeah.
Where's the prevention? Where's the detection? How do you think you're going to get that if you don't have cameras? Tell me.
And you mentioned easily because the recent killing of the minister's daughter and the mother, it was just so easy. It's like there's no sense of um,
No
persons,
fear.
you know, we're just killing. Well, anyhow, somebody said there's too much focus on CCTV. There need to be a mixed bag approach. Exactly, connection between organized crime and government. Cameras are one thing. Talking organized crime is the main issues. Mocha are clean skin. JCF is unfortunately compromised. We're gonna move on from that.
I mean, let me
Sorry,
just respond.
so we
I'm
say,
not suggesting that a CCTV policy is the only policy that can be used because let us give credit where credit is due. The
yeah,
MP government and the JLP government have been utilizing social programs, and I've
yeah,
heard the leader of the opposition saying, reform our educational system. Those
mm,
things will give you long term gains. I am not suggesting that CCTV is a panacea that will solve all problems or it is the only tool that can be utilized.
yeah,
No, I'm not saying it, but I'm saying it's a very important, significant part of our armory. Without
mm,
it, we haven't entered the race.
yes. Jamaican already for that. The system Jamaica police use is so outdated, them need to move up. That's a comment from Michelle. You have to be in certain class Jamaicans in order to have cameras outside your house. The typical citizen can't afford. What do you say about that? Or you're looking at a different, yeah, go on.
As I said to you, a homeowner. The government, as I said, this our program is too short to discuss
Yeah,
the ways in which we're doing it. The government can pay for it, and in turn, you pay via installments and pay back the government. Fail, you lose your home. You lose your
yeah,
home. This is how serious this is right now.
yes, yes.
This is how serious this is. This idea that Jamaica is not ready for it. When will Jamaica be ready for a CCTV program? When all of us are dead? Come
Do you
on.
know, do you know that many years ago, when Colonel Macmillan was the Minister of National Security, I went down to one of the diaspora conference, and you can figure how far that is because when he's passed away now, and a gentleman from I know worked with BBC gave me a pamphlet with a proposal for CCTV. That was from that time, you
Yeah.
know, and nothing really had taken off it. And he was a bit annoyed. He's from the diaspora with Jamaican parentage, and he just sort of those guys down there are not serious. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to move on from that now. Let's go on to constitutional affair. I mentioned earlier that when we talk about constitutional reform to the average Jamaican, um, they will say, "Oh, what that? They need to be crime. We need to sort out crime." When my good friend O'Neill went down to Jamaica recently, and he said that, Silburn, I went to the breadth of Jamaica. Not one person was talking about constitutional reforms. You know, where are we now on that? I mean, we have other, we have sat in these panels. We have been around the UK, Birmingham, uh, London, and Nottingham, having these forums there. What's your take on it? It seems a bit, unless you're in it directly and you're into intrinsically involved. I hear nothing, Matondo.
Well, I mean, the meetings are taking place. I can tell you
Yeah,
that the last one was
yeah,
on the 25th of October.
yeah.
Those minutes are not up as yet.
Mm,
I think the last set of minutes are on the 8th for the 18th of October. That was on the
mm,
25th meeting of the Constitutional Reform Committee. So
mm,
technically, they've had 26 meetings.
mm.
With the 26th one having taken place on, I think, the 25th of October or something like that. This
Yes.
goes back to the fundamental problem that nobody seems to be able to answer. In the era of YouTube, it won't cost you any money to create a constitutional reform committee YouTube channel of Jamaica. It won't cost you not even a penny.
Mm.
This government has refused to televise the deliberations of the committee. Either it's
Yeah.
ashamed of the deliberations or it wants to keep the people in
Done.
ignorance and in the dark.
Dunce.
It's just
We're
wrong.
we're in a knapsack. We want to keep it. We're a knapsack. Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, never open it because air might come out of it.
Yeah.
I don't understand. So yeah, the answer to direct answer to your question is yes. There is the meetings are still taking place,
Mm.
but the people of Jamaica are not as involved as they should, because it shouldn't be a case where unless you turn up to a town hall meeting, you don't know what's going on. Or it
Mm.
shouldn't be the case that unless there is a town hall meeting, you don't know what's going on when the committee is meeting,
Yes.
when the committee is having its deliberations. It's just wrong, and I don't understand why it is that the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs is
Mm.
doing this, and one has to blame her. Initially, she said, well, she gave an indication for those of us who were naive enough to have accepted it. She said, well, it's early days. Let's get out the teething problems first,
Mm.
and then we get into the business of broadcasting the deliberations. I
Yes.
don't. There cannot be any conceivable rationale for this failure, abject failure on the part of the minister. I think one of the things that is sort of, it's embarrassing to say I'm gonna uh, abolish the monarchy and become a republic, but at the same time retain appeals to the Privy Council.
Mm.
That's an embarrassment that the government just cannot deal with, and I suspect it doesn't want to broadcast this thing and get the deliberations going live,
Mm.
because that's just it's just an embarrassment to say I'm going to retain appeals to the Privy Council, whilst at the same time I'm going to talk about somehow I'm going to create this republic.
Yes.
I mean, God, it's good that the people of Jamaica have spoken, in a sense, through a poll conducted by Don Anderson, which says that especially young Jamaicans do not want to retain appeals to the Privy Council. They do not want to. And so the government is in a conundrum now where it has to respond to that. And if you look at the notes from the meeting that was held on the 18th of October, the issue of abolishing appeals to the Privy Council took up a significant proportion of the discussions then, because the leader of the opposition is saying, I'm not supporting the People's National Party will not be supporting any moves to abolish the monarchy, whilst at the same time leaving untouched a
The Privy
piece to the
Council.
Privy Council.
Yeah.
And I think that's a sensible thing to put on the table.
Yes.
One should not happen without the other.
So why do
And
you think? Why do you think that they're? Why do you think not Jamaicans? Why do you think the leaders are holding on to this? From the present government structure with Malo, why they're holding on to the Privy Council, the last Sebastian, the last relic of this transatlantic slavery colonial masters, as if to say they are the ones that can do it. I know people sometimes say, "Oh, we can't trust our own," and I find that also very disingenuous at times when they say we can't trust the Caribbean Privy Council. I find that's totally ingenious because they,
well,
oh, no, hang on, because they know each other, and you and I know that in the UK here, judges and lawyers all know each other.
yeah, I mean, I think that somehow the Jamaican Labour Party government feels a sort of debt to Edward Siaga, who was uh, impassioned and it was opposed to the CCJ, but with qualification.
Yes.
With qualification.
Mm.
He said, well, effectively, well, we didn't know. He said he wanted to give, well, some people say in private conversation, the CCJ 5 years to operate. No, it's had about 15 years now.
Yes.
15 years. And I can tell you that the the quality of the decision making in the CCJ impeccable. Doesn't mean I'm saying that the quality of the decision making of the Privy Council is suspect. No, I'm not saying that. I don't need to say I support the CCJ. I don't need to denigrate the Privy Council. I don't, because there's nothing to denigrate. But I'll say this, that I and we must have a problem with a final appellate court that does not give dissenting judgments. The Privy
Mm.
Council no longer gives dissenting judgments. And what that tells us, that will affect the evolution and development of our law on
Mm.
critical things. If you read the judgments of the CCJ, they're lengthier, they go into greater depth, and they contain dissenting opinions to the extent that that's relevant. I mean, if any of your viewers or listeners would
Mm.
spend just 20, 30 minutes of any day and look at the appellate judgments, not the original jurisdictions, but the appellate judgments of the CCJ, they will see the quality of the judgment and the issues that they deal with.
Mm.
There's something to be said about having a court that understands the Caribbean experience.
Culture as well.
I
Yes.
mean that's important. I mean, when you read a CC, a Privy Council judgment, the judges will the language that they use tells you that they see themselves as a foreign court.
Yeah.
They don't make any bones about it. They see themselves as a foreign court, and frankly, they want to get rid of us. But somehow, this JLP government seems hell bent on prolonging their stay in somebody's house, despite the fact that they're telling them dinner is over, supper has been served, you've had your meal, you've had supper, it's time to leave.
Yes.
It's
You know,
time to leave.
yeah, in TikTok it says I'm an interested party and I haven't seen the vision for the Republic of Jamaica. It shows that the people has no trust in the Jamaican judicial system. Another person agrees, Silburn. I was in Jamaica only a few weeks ago and heard no talk on this. It's an issue of interest to the political class. A rising tide lifts all boats economic growth, and now is more important than constitutional reform. You see, one of the things I'm concerned about is the last election whereby there was 31% turnout to vote. 31% turnout to vote of the of or registered to vote, and this vote may come around this referendum, and you may have 20%. What happened if 20% turnout to vote when they really put it to the public, Matondo?
Doesn't matter. But I don't
Mm.
think that's going to happen. I
You
don't
think
think it's
more?
going to happen.
You think people are going to be really charged to turn out?
For what? They removing the Privy Council or
No, removing the republic. For Jamaica to become a republic. That's a big up.
I think people will turn out. I think people will turn out
Yeah,
because both political parties are singing technically off the same
same him.
hymn sheet when it comes to removing the king as the head of state.
Yes.
Um, if you want to ensure that you
Mm.
have 100% turnout, you put the Privy Council on the ballot and you see what happens.
Yes.
People
Yes.
are incensed. People are, sorry, not incensed. People are energized, and everyone has a view on this. I might not agree with some of the views, but people have a view on this. They
Mm.
do have a view. Everybody seems to have a view
Yes.
on it.
Mm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, in the last word, I mean, this is we're gonna be going on with this. I think we'll have to. People were sending me a message and say this is gonna be regular. Well, I used to do regular my Sunday evening. It's like a fireside chat, and I believe we need to do some more of this because we just skim the surface on a lot of these, isn't it, Matunda?
Well, we're going to do it another time. It's
Mm.
always a pleasure.
Yes.
Final word, we're not going to give up on Jamaica. We're not going to bet against Jamaica. Jamaica will pull through.
Mm.
Um, yeah, we've been. I see. I always tell people, we have been through the dark days of slavery
Mm.
in Jamaica. We've been through the bad times in the 80s, the
Mm.
70s, and we will survive. We just need to do what we did then to survive, which is good people with some brain should step up.
Yes.
And this sort of existential challenge that we're facing now with crime, it only takes a good half an hour,
Yes.
one, to sack the Minister of National Security, to get someone who's serious about getting control orders, getting
Yes.
CCTV policy in place. Because I'm not going to bet against Jamaica, and I'm not saying that Ghibli. I'm not going to bet against Jamaica because I know that we're resilient people, and if
Mm.
anything, we are creative people, and we'll find a solution. If it means overturning a government, we'll do so. If it means Jamaica has to survive.
Mm. Thank you very much for that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you so much for joining tonight. And those on TikTok, those on Facebook, those on YouTube, and those on Instagram, remember to like and subscribe to the Silver and Show. And remember to share this discussion as much as possible. And we'll be back again another night, Sunday night. Yes, might as well do it. And of course, every Tuesday night, every Thursday night, we got In Review. And Saturday night, Talk and Sip International. That's where we're going. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to thank you very much. Have a good night. Um, the late one spills.